to everyone. A very good afternoon. Vanakkam. Welcome to Citizen Matters. Lavande, we keep trying to do these initiatives where how do we convey more and more to citizens? How do we take charge of some of these issues that affect our daily lives? And many of you are familiar faces here, especially in my family. People don't want to walk down the street with me because they say, "Oror vit vasale ni kope kalari ovotriya visariche." Nobody wants to do this 300 meters in 3 hours with you. And I'm sure that resonates with most people in this panel, saying that we are all Kupe warriors, proudly Kupe warriors, of course. But it just goes to show how this is a problem that has now acquired giant proportions. It has taken up so much space of concerned citizens. So I'm really very happy to welcome you all to this call. Thank you very much for joining. We will hopefully have Mr. Mahesan, Chief Engineer from the Solid Waste Management Department of Chennai Corporation, Greater Chennai Corporation, joining us in some time. The Commissioner was very supportive and said, yes, I understand that the administration has a big role to play in this, and I will ask him to join. But while we wait for that, I would like to start this off truly as befitting Citizen Matters, as from hearing from a citizen. Jayanti, I want to ask you first. How has it been? We have all heard stories of Jayanti going door to door. Tell us in maybe a nutshell, how has the experience been? How was it before? Has the pandemic made things worse? I mean, we all know, but then how has it made it worse? What has the challenge been? Tell us.
Yeah, good evening to everyone. Yes, I have been Cooper Warrior since Exnora days. And then came Onyx, and then came Neil Metal Fanalka, and then came Ramki, and now USFL. Well, till Ramki, I think end of Ramki, it has been a challenge. It was only about clearance of waste, only clearing and putting it into the landfill. It was in one of the articles that I read in Arya Times that they were opening an MCC in our neighborhood. That we start that infrastructure. When we saw that there was an infrastructure by GCC, is what triggered and motivated us to take the awareness on segregating waste and taking it, because the accountability is what the citizens look for. The infrastructure was one. So we started, and it was a challenge because, we don't keep a shoe in a book cupboard or clothes in a kitchen. Why? Because we have been trained so since the birth. But now, this age-old practice of mixed garbage is such a behavioral change that you need to work with. It's such a challenging thing. It was a challenge, but we did in our community door-to-door campaign, and we conducted workshops. We even went to some senior citizens' house and trained their help how to segregate, and then we had a WhatsApp group where we would send a thought for the day, not a day, but a week, on how to segregate, what is good, what is not good. We would send videos of our facilities and what is happening with the whole process. And, so when they got to see the final end-to-end chain process, many of them came forward and started giving. And there were a lot more who did not come in because it's a behavioral change. They would ask us, who are you, to come and ask us. They would close the door on our faces. They would tell the watchman not to let inside. There was a police case against me because they said I was threatening and harassing them on asking them to segregate waste. So it's a very tasking job, which needs the GCC support and the private provider support, without which it is not possible. But we did, take up a different approach of working with the conservancy concessioners and keeping the bin and the bin area clean, removing bin. Valmiki Nagar removed all the bins. We became binless, and we beautified the area, and planted trees, and got the payment. And all these changes, good changes, got few more inside. But still, not everybody is part of this. And with all this work, we were able to generate 3 tons just before COVID hit us. COVID came and everything took a toss. COVID, all the facilities shut down and had to shut down because GCC was far stretched and they could not have the MCCs open. So our waste started going mixed to the landfill. The moment the people, residents saw this, they went back to their old ways. They find it very convenient to just put everything together and send it to landfill. We citizens also, to keep the momentum, try to organize a lot of drives, just to show that there are so many waste and there are takers for waste. We had an e-waste drive, we have worn out clothes drive, we had footwear drives, we had mattress drive, which all can be repurposed if given to the right appropriate agencies. And it was quite a success. But without GCC, if we need to reinitiate this whole thing, I think we need the GCC's help to set up infrastructure to process all our waste. We need USFL to work, collect and transfer it properly, work with the community and the solid waste management influencers, give them feedback, constructive feedbacks, take constructive feedbacks. This is something, together, the three of us, unless the three of us work together, we cannot achieve. Chennai generates 5,000 tons, 2,500 is wet waste, 2,500 ton is dry waste. Of the 2,500 tons, bulk waste generators, they generate 100 plus kgs, whereas the small timers generate only 650 to 850 grams. So solid waste management rules says that they have to process their weight, but nothing has been done. They are walking free and they just come at night and dump all their waste inside the bin. So the government has to have a strong foundation of enforcement. They have to enforce it. All violators should be penalized, fined. If all of us had to follow rules, I don't think we would have ever had a not wearing helmet fine or a COVID protocol violators fine or a mask. When GCC understands that they have to find these people to get them into line, I think we need that here also. So we need to work together with GCC, private providers, and it is our responsibility as citizens also to give, segregated waste, because it is the right way, because it is good even for the conservancy who collected, so it has been a whole lot of challenge. But for a success, I think we really need the implementation, a strong foundation from GCC side, citizens to segregate, and the USFL to do their job properly.
Thank you, Jayanti. I remember those days when one morning there was a police complaint and Jayanti had to be called and said, "Oh." But Jayanti, I'm picking up something here that you said about how Chennai generates this humongous amount of waste. So much of it is wet waste, which is not processed, I actually am reminded of something Shubhana said in a conversation earlier. She said, the challenge is not to process the waste. The challenge is to not generate the waste in the first place. Shubhana, did I hear you right when you said that in one of our earlier conversations? And can I ask you to please pick up that thread and tell us if simply asking people to throw things in 2-3 different bins is such a challenge, how do we even start to think about generating less in the first place?
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi. Yes. So definitely, adding to what Jayanti is saying, that not only do we need to handle the waste that we are generating, because obviously that's an ongoing problem, and we already have all the waste which has been lying for years in our dump yards. But we also need to look at how we are going to reduce the amount of waste we're generating. A lot of it is unnecessary waste, right? Going back to what Jayanti was also saying about consumer habits, right? What are we consuming and what are we getting rid of? We don't need to be consuming and generating so much waste. So, for example, if you're looking at like a tap which is open and your bathroom is getting flooded, will you be trying to mop that water off or tap a right? We are not looking at that part of how we reduce that waste. Obviously, the generation of your wet waste or your biodegradable waste will be there, but your non-biodegradable waste, we definitely need to look at how we reduce that part of it. And even the part about how we handle the waste that we do generate, we need to think about how we can break it down at a more local level. All of our systems is all about மேலேந்து அரசாங்கம் மேலேந்து உட்காந்து சொல்றது, and it gets more and more centralized. So, it's at a city level or a state level or the national level. That's where our laws are set up and that's where the system is. But in reality, who's dealing with this? You and me, Ilya, and chinna kadagal, restaurants, all of these different kinds of people. So, avungalukku local level la enna pandrom? How do we make a system that works for us at the local level? So then they are also involved. How do we decentralize this entire process? And that will be crucial if we really want to take care of this problem, and not just look at it one as a management issue, but also as how we produce and generate that waste and how we turn that tap off, but also how then through the whole process, we break it down into smaller manageable, sections of things that we can do and decentralize the entire process so that all of us are involved and we all have a role to play, and it builds up from bottom up instead of top down.
Thank you, Shumana. நீங்க இது வந்து இந்த டீசென்ட்ரலைஸ்டா ஸ்ட்ரீட் லெவல்ல, கடை லெவல்ல, how do you manage-ன்ற போது, right on my Zoom screen in the very next window is somebody who has actually tried to do this for 4 years, tried to build an app, tried to get citizens to say, come here, call us, கபாடி வாலா கூப்பிடுங்க, பேப்பர் வாலா கூப்பிடுங்க, நான் வந்து உங்க வேஸ்ட் எடுத்துட்டு போறேன், I will help them to segregate this. We will help you travel on this waste journey. But where has his own waste journey been? Matthew, please tell us what has been the business experience of trying to deal with waste. I was very excited the day you launched your app. I remember I immediately called, and the same staff from Kotur came and said, Madam, inga app la kooptirukingla? So I said, yes. But you tell us, how has it been?
Super. So definitely, I think the doorstep service that we started in 2014, we were able to run it up until 2018 beginning. That's how long it lasted. I would say it was one of the bravest experiments we have ever done. In my so I started my experiments in the experiments in the waste management space at 2010. I was about 21 when I started. And even today, it's experiments. We keep trying, we learn, we make mistakes, and we move on. This attempt at working with the kabadiwalas and creating that doorstep recycling solution, which is basically something like today what you see your Uber model, right, where you have drivers and you have people asking for pickup drives and things like that. So a similar model. We got a lot of traction, we got a lot of attention regarding that program, but we had in I think about 4 years, we had about 5,000 households in the city registering in with us. That's what we actually got, there's always a lot of people who are very passionate about this space. So we got a lot of people signing up with this. But for us, it is just impossible to manage it sustainably over a period. It's just because you're dealing with highly low value material. There's no subsidy around this. You have your cost, especially if you're doing a technology product, then you have your cost of sustaining the technology, like servers and be real time to be the website up for this thing, and then you need to have a tech team around this, and you have you have pretty decent cost that is there around it. I'm talking about a model where we were trying very low frill. Because we were dependent on a kabadiwala side as such, right? And we're tapping onto their infrastructure and just like how an Uber taps into a driver and his car, right? So similar thing, right? And in spite of it, it was impossible in many areas where we struggled was to keep the quality of service. And a kabadiwala because for him it's a whole new world to do that consistency of service. All that was a challenge. We did a good amount of fraction. In fact, we're doing about at least 15 to 20 pickups every day for a very long time. It was very exciting building this whole project. As I said, we always consider going to the citizens' doorstep to pick up the material and enable it to the recycling channel was the bravest attempt that we did. And for a long time after that, we had shutting down syndrome. Like I could not for a year almost. It took up time to just get over it. But it was one of the, as I said, it was supremely challenging just to make sure it can sustainably run. Extremely challenging, but still very, very exciting.
Sure. I'm sure you wouldn't want to trade that experience for anything. But
excuse me, who was the last speaker? Can I get the name and contact?
So we will put it in we will add it in the chat box.
Okay.
This is Matthew.
Okay, thank you.
Founded Paperman, and he was just telling us about his experience of running a service with a technology back, with a front app facing for the residents and a server at the back, trying to optimize how waste is collected from different areas of the city and how they could try and recycle it, segregate it, and reuse it as best as possible. Matthew, I'll come back to you later. You made some very valid points about how there is no incentive or even any support to actually make this into a viable business, given the amount of waste that is being generated. We'll come back to the economics and the whole system that doesn't really help us make a business or even want people to do this in a profitable way. Again, I'm hoping that we'll have the GCC official join us, wondering if there are any indicators. Now that we have a new government here in Tamil Nadu, there have been some notifications about Singara Chennai. So those of us in this call, the Singaram starts with not having kuppai and with having to reduce the kuppai and treat it better. So hopefully that is top of agenda for some of the officials in charge now. I would like to, the point that Jayanti was making about how we need to change people's attitudes, and suddenly because of the pandemic, the amount of garbage, apart from what we normally generated, again, it was all about restaurants giving takeaway and not being able to use, even those who had changed their habits, not being able to use their cloth bags, not being able to go into a shop and pick up something. The other dimension that got completely added was the entire medical waste angle. And that is where we were very fascinated by what Mr. Pugalavendhan had to say. Already for a few years now, his interest was in understanding. Basically, he was into environmental volunteering, lake cleaning, water body rejuvenation. And anga poi pata, yenga water body clean mannalum, they came upon medical waste. And that is how he kind of almost pivoted in his interest. So, Mr. Pugal, you please tell us how this journey started. Eppadi engyo lake la toorvara poha, enga ninga po medical waste warrior வந்து நிக்கிறீங்க. இத பத்தி கொஞ்சம் சொல்லுங்க. And what is the challenge, especially that you have noticed with COVID now?
Thank you, Meenakshi. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Like as you said, initially I started, questioning about the people who are, creating harm to the water bodies and the farmland. Especially when my career started with Tirunelmalai, where still you can see more than half of the village is filled with the farmland, and still they are practicing the farming. So I noticed many sewage trucks, they were dumping sewage waste and industrial effluent, which are coming from the nearest SIPCOT or SIPCO. So they are all chemical waste which were being dumped here. So I just started questioning them. I was putting some petitions, covering this in different social medias, and this got some attention of a few English newspapers. So I was in this part of work. So I just started to to support Tirunelmalai farmers, whatever the factors that are affecting their land, whatever factors affecting their process of irrigations and all. I was just trying to eradicate all those issues, and then I ended up in cleaning lake, Tirunelmalai Lake, where in the first week of my cleaning process, it was just like an awareness. I was trying to gather the youngsters from Tirunelmalai and to create an awareness, just like Chitlapakam Rising did in Chitlapakam. So I was trying to do that, and in the first week of my cleaning phase, I ended up in encountering a huge lot of expired medicine. So which we reported, we gave some complaints. What happened is the corporation, they came, I mean the town panchayat office, they came, they just cleared that waste, and it was the process for no further investigation on who did this was not done. Immediately after a week, I was able to see a huge no, at least a truck full of biomedical waste. These biomedical waste I saw near Adayar River, which passes through this Tirunelmalai. Again, after a month, in the same Tirunelmalai, when I got some permission from Kanchipuram Collectorate, and I was along with the Environmental Foundation of India, we were cleaning the lake with Oakland equipment inside the lake. But that time, the opposite side of the lake, other side of the lake, we were able to see again a huge, amount of expired medicine. So this was repeatedly, it was coming in our way. Our intention was something else. We were trying to to help the farmers of Tirunelmalai to protect the water bodies. We were trying to do this, and then I ended up in encountering this biomedical waste and expired medicine waste, and I started learning about that. What is this and why it is happening? So what are the steps needs to be done? I was knocking pollution control board office, and they came up with, no, this is only biomedical waste we will take care. Expired medicine waste we have a separate department, and then came the drug control department. Till then, for the petition whichever we were filing, there was no sound. I mean, there's no reply from the drug control department. And then when pollution control board tagged them, then they entered in the picture. So it was almost like a two-path. Till now, I'm able to see like in multiple places in the Chennai suburban area, almost all the waste whichever we are finding, they are not inside Chennai city limit. They are in Chennai suburban area, because these are the places where still we can see a lot of water bodies, farmland, and open empty land filled with bushes. So these are very for them it is very convenient to hide this kind of medical waste. They will just travel to till this outer ring road, and they will throw in somewhere wherever they find some landfill or anywhere. It's our habit to once I'm doing something and I'm throwing some garbage there, another person throws there, and that place become as a landfill.
Yeah.
And these people, they are doing the same thing, but how they got was like they throw the medical waste in a huge amount. So once when I got to know about this medical waste, I had an idea like definitely just like Tirunelmalai, there will be multiple places in suburban area where this will be happening. So I myself took interest to investigate, or I mean to do and to visit all the lakes in the suburb. And the sad part was, wherever I went, I was able to see biomedical waste and experiments waste. I never came empty-handed anywhere. It was very what to say, ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கும் அது, because when we go there, I wish I should not find any medical waste there, but somewhere in the water bodies or in the lake or in the empty ground, or especially in the farmlands, I will end up with encountering this kind of biomedical waste. So we tried, we started giving complaints, repeated complaints, and we requested the official to take action against the defaulters who are doing this. Because what happened is, we will find this kind of place, we will give a complaint, they will come, they will clear that, and that's all. The pictures end there. But what after that? It is not happening.
Yeah.
We try to file RTIs, multiple petitions asking the questions, but there is no transparency between the department or the people who are fighting against that. They are not free to share the information, or not even to the reporters or anything, or to any of others. They're not at all sharing. So we try to get information through RTIs and all, but still in many places the process still stagnant. Like they have cleared the waste. That's all. What next? Till now, this question mark.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you say that there is a lot of there is a lack of transparency, and the vicious cycle is very hard to break. But I'll come back to you on what you think are your ideas for us to start probably change from the grassroots up, because if that is something that citizens are capable of, that is something we should surely evangelize. So I'm going
Yes.
to take that thought from you and keep it in my notes. But in the meantime, I would like to welcome to the panel. I do see his video is not on, Mr. Mahesan. I think you have joined the call. Am I right? Can you hear us? I do see Chief Engineer Mahesan sir irkingla call la. SWM GCC Chief Engineer. I see a person has joined. Okay, we'll maybe there is I don't know if there is an audio issue, but in the meantime, I want to ask Sumana. Sumana, what do you think are there examples in other cities or in other places that can be quickly replicated of the decentralized approach that you talked about? One is, of course, we know that Jayanti said that having infrastructure, like if I can see that garbage from my area is actually taken to a composting center right near where I am, and people can actually go past and see that it's being converted into compost. It's very, very motivating. But is that actually practical for every area? And if not, then what is the decentralized method that you were talking about? Are there examples that you can share with us?
Yeah, so there are, there are attempts, there are a lot of people in other cities as well who are, battling this issue. And there are examples in Pune, Indore is not so decentralized, but it's a smaller city. So, I guess their situation might be different. But there are attempts in other cities. There are organizations in Bangalore who are trying to do things. There are people in Pune. So there is all of this. But fundamentally, if you look at it, I don't think it requires a lot of, breaking your head. It's like with a lot of, a lot of Kerala has a lot of decentralized systems in various governance perspectives. So it's very simple. You need to build the capacity at the local level, at your ward level or zone level, wherever you decide that this is going to work for you as a city. Make sure that the officials have the resources they need, the support they need to handle this, and of course bring in citizens. It's not going to work unless all of us also join hands with the government on this. So under level, or if you're at an RWA level, you're organizing yourself, you have your own system. So set it up at different levels. It might, or city you might have palaveda model, depending on what works for you at the local level. So that will take a little time to figure out. Micro composting center poda poruma illa veetlaye pandroma, or idla some people veetla vandu compost பண்ணுவாங்க, segregate பண்ணுவாங்க, and then they send their waste to a material recovery facility. You might have different kind of things happening. So the fundamental is you need to start looking at that level, at either a zone or a ward level, whatever makes sense, and start setting it up. And it'll probably be a bit of trial and run for a while, and then you build on it. But the other thing that I also wanted to point out was that none of this, whether you're doing it centralized or decentralized, is going to work unless you're clear on your messaging. Even now, at least in my area, we are supposed to be having, when last year, when the new service provider came in, they said they were going to segregate, right? There was a lot of advertisements around it. But then And I actually went and spoke to that person who was collecting, and I said, "Seri, appo na plastic ungalta kudukren, paper thaniya vandu, I've segregated all my waste. Here's all my non-biodegradable waste. I'm composting, so idella ungalta kudukren." And எல்லாத்தையும் வாங்கி தனித்தனியா பின்ல போட்டாரு. அப்புறம் தெருமுனையில போய் அந்த பெரிய குப்பை தொட்டியில எல்லாம் சேர்த்து போட்டு உள்ள தள்ளிட்டாரு. அப்படி பண்ணும்போது ஆஸ் அ சிட்டிசன் நான் என்ன நினைக்க போறேன், அப்ப எதுக்கு நான் முட்டாள் மாதிரி செக்ரிகேட் பண்ணும்? ஒரு கருப்பு பையில எல்லாத்தையும் தூக்கி போட்டா அவர் எனிவே வந்து போய் பொறுக்கி அங்க போட போறாரு. அண்ட் நைட்டா வந்து அந்த கம்பேக்டர் அப்படியே எல்லாத்தையும் வந்து கம்பேக்டர்ல போட்டு பெருங்குடி போறது. So you need to message, right? You need to make that very clear, set up that system, ensure that you have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, that you say that this is how it's going to be. These are the rules. You have to do this. We will support you. Make your messaging extremely, extremely clear and follow through on it. Not, say we're going to segregate and then do all of this at the back end, where clearly then citizens are going to get demoralized and not want to be part of it.
Thank you, Sumana. Mr. Mahesan, sir, நீங்க ரொம்ப கரெக்டான டயத்துல எங்க கால் படி நீங்க வந்து சேர்ந்திருக்கீங்க. வெல்கம். தேங்க்யூ வெரி மச் ஃபார் ஜாயினிங் த கால். இதான் சார், இப்போ சிட்டிசன்ஸ் எல்லாம் வேற வேற இதுல வேலை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிற சிட்டிசன்ஸ் என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, why is the message not clear? அதான் சார், கார்பரேஷன்ல இருந்து அத்தாரிட்டிஸ்ல இருந்து எப்போ இந்த செக்ரிகேஷனை பத்தி when is going to be the clear message? என்ன செய்யணும் citizens? Is there a penalty? Is there positive reinforcement? What are going to be the steps? Please, can you tell us about those?
Thanks, madam, that I'm happy to join with this debate. Okay, that there is quite a lot of awareness and everything is there. Of course, I am hear your voice and I am able to say that the Chennai Corporation, we say we are generating around 5,000 garbage, 5,000 tons of garbage pre-COVID times. It's around. So after COVID, there is a reduction due to the lockdown and all last year. There is around reduction of more than 1,500 tons reduction is there. It's everybody knows that. And these 5,000 tons, normally the organic and the wet waste and dry waste, we used to say that it's around 2,500 tons of that wet waste being generated. That is organic waste. 2,100 to 2,300 waste, and then another 2,000 around dry waste is there, and the 400 to 500 inerts will be there. That is the usual composition of that. That the last 2 years, solid waste management, we have created a lot of facilities for the decentralized micro composting centers, and kind of the bigger scale that windrow composting system is there. And another one is an innovative one. You may be knowing know that garden waste processing centers. Now we 5 such locations we have identified, and around 80 tons the capacity of each center, around 400 tons. That is what you say, garden waste in the sense horticultural waste, and all the tender coconut. That tender coconut, after we take, it will be going to dustbin again, go to garbage bin and then dump out. Those things we are channelizing now, including that horticultural waste, and we put up a center for garden waste in the PPP mode, in which that garden all lot of articles have come in Hindu and Indian Express 3 or 4 months back. It is quite in some time. It is in operation around more than 8-9 months. That we are tender coconut we are doing with pith block and tender and the fiber, pith block, and also that briquette we are making and wood chips. All these things, it's under current kind of projects is going on, and we are processing, of course, those kind of waste material around 150 to 180 tons we are daily processing. Another one is that the catchy one is that bio CNG project. So maybe knowing that at Chetpat, near that our Gengireddy subway, where we have erected 100 ton capacity bio CNG machine, bio CNG project, bio compressed natural gas. The food waste and the kitchen waste, all kind of meat, chicken waste, all those things being channelized. Of course, trial run, it is over. And by July onwards, we are going to put this kind of project in pipeline operation. This 100 ton of waste, we can able to produce that compressed natural gas. The vendor able to supply like a buyback model to the hoteliers. Like that way, we want to do a lot of projects like that. In the similar kind of bio CNG project, can be 6 kind of plants we are going to come up. So in that way, we waste around 1,800 tons touching around. We are going to have a project in the pipeline. When the whole project comes to on operation, we can say able to say that 1,500 to 1,800 tons of the wet waste will be processed and it will be utilized at a maximum scale. And the dry waste side also, you can have that, but the dry waste, there are a lot of improvements we have gone through. In that, we are making a resource recovery center you mentioned earlier. Some of them I see through. Material recovery facilities we have constructed. It is there, each ward they have. In that, all kind of materials will be taken through that recyclable vendors. Moreover, we have tied up an agreement with the Dalmia Cement Company, who in turn, they are able to take our non-recyclable plastics and all. We are just baling it, and that baled quantity of plastics, they are going to use it in the cement plants as a co-processing fuel. And it is being taken last more than 6 months it is in operation, and daily, weekly around 50 tons of these kind of baled plastics is being dispatched to the Dalmia industry. You can see it very well at Pallikaranai, where you can see Pallikaranai also. And one more thing, incinerator, and we have recently installed at Manali incinerator, a dry waste facility. It is in operation more than a year, where we are putting all kind of dry waste, non-dry recyclable waste, and it is comes through the end product is 3 to 4% of only a material like fine that is dust powder can come. That is the end product. It is destroyed completely. That tons of garbage, dry waste. This kind of plant we have installed 10 tons already, and one more 50 tons plant we have erected at the Kodungayur dumping ground. And moreover, like another 100 tons plant all over city, decentralized way, we are planned to have another 6 kind of plants, like projects like that city. And one more thing, that mobile incinerator, it is going to be launched soon, wherein that big functions, like beach area or some trade fair function like that, where you can move this mobile incinerator. It is one under CSR funding through Renault Rizon company, and we just placed now, and it is under trial run only, wherein that 5 ton of waste in a compact system of we can burn through it, and it's a good product we have imported from Malaysian country. The vendor is that approved by the TNBCP and other things, and it's an imported machinery. It's a very handy one. Like that, we are going to have 1,500, 1,200, 1,500 tons of dry waste. So we have the plan, and both wet waste and the dry waste is around 3,500 to 4,000 tons. We are able to process it in a scientific manner, and we are firm on it, and the days are not far away. By the closing year next year, 2022, because of the lockdown, we have lost our the total construction period. the labor problem, machinery production problem. Otherwise, it should have been completed this year in itself. They maybe taking another 9 months or 1 year time. We'll be coming to an maximum production of all these kind of machineries.
So,
and the city Chennai Corporation, all these plants are there. All we need is that segregation again.
exactly.
No, that is a main part of it, which we cannot, GCC alone can do it. It's all a stakeholder involvement, and they have to give a very helping hand to us, to the environment, to the society. We all responsible, not anybody.
Yes.
This forum can help us to do all kind of projects. I am saluting your debate that the people of different, speakers are there. They can at least outreach these kind of projects to the people. They can help us so that we can go ahead with kind of.
If I may just take the point that you have just made, that the messaging from the authorities is the most important.
Yes,
when
yes.
will the GCC tell people that they will be penalized for not segregating in the right way?
Yes,
If you can tell us that, I think that will be the most joyous day for Waste Warriors.
Yes, yes.
Why is that not clear?
We have that approved government bylaw is there, solid waste bylaw, management bylaw is there, and we made a gazette notification also. And
Sir,
the enforcement point is that
you need autos to go around the street saying you need to segregate.
yes,
Unless the message comes from the authorities, so many of us here have actually been in situations where people have said, "Neenga enna engala kekkuradhu?"
correct. No, that one more thing, and we are recently we introduced all the battery operated vehicle, the kind of song instead of whistling. Maybe some of them may heard it. I think, I don't know. Last week we introduced a system of segregation promotional song, and that through battery operated vehicle is an IEC campaign. We just to make awareness among that primary collection BOV operated vehicle. Instead of whistling, we introduced a system of putting a nice song to trigger the residents to the activity. That is there. One more thing, as you well pointed out, how to enforce this. That is a bylaw is very much approved, and we will be giving shortly a press release on that. Because of COVID and other things, the enforcement measures not bylaw very much it stipulates that we can bylaw. Each resident as a resident, garbage, my garbage is my responsibility. I have to give segregation form of the garbage waste. You have to give it. Say we are putting a battery operated vehicle, different color coded bins, and it is our responsibility to keep it in a segregated form, just to give it to the primary collection vendors who is coming there. This will it not be a big hardcore exercise? It's our vision, not only that, our involvement to the environment. Better the speaker can debate on that. Constructive points from the forum, we'll take it forward, and we can take it for implementation also. So that enforcement point is well taken. There will be a press release on that regarding that enforcement. What would be a voluntary segregation of these kind of waste based on that? I don't know. We all know about that mixing of waste and spoiling the environment. We are unable to process it. That's why the mountain of garbage is being dumped at Perungudi and dumping yard more than 3-4 decades. Now we are going to have biomining. That biomining, where that kind of legacy waste, we are just putting a kind of a processing system. We are again going back that all RDF, all material, we are segregating, and we are sending out to that processing industries. So this way we are going to reclaim that, we restore that Pallikaranai, Peringudi land, its original position, and almost we are going to have that project implemented. It takes around 2 to 3 years. That is one of the message I am conveying to you all, that we all dumped 3-4 decades waste, more than 35 lakhs of m³ of ton of waste is being laid there. To avoid that dumping, all we need is to segregation.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So if you allow us this forum to bring a petition that, we will submit as many. I am actually going to take 1 minute to ask my friend Jayanti to highlight how the wrong messaging can prove so much work undone. In the most recent Urbaser Sumit leaflets, it listed used sanitary napkins amongst recyclable waste. How much damage a leaflet like that can do to years of education of citizens, sir. I would just like her to take 2 minutes to tell us how much she faced problems in the community, and therefore, is there a channel in which citizens can come and share with the corporation and with Urbaser that these are the mistakes? We've been trying to fix this mistake for 1 year, Mr. Mahesan.
Yes, go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead, Jayanti.
Hello, sir. Yeah, so from our community, we had started before COVID, when there was a MCC in Basant Nagar, which was ready. The Tiruvanmiyur, of course, got shut down for some political reason. So when the MCC at Basant Nagar was ready, we had given awareness in 2,000 plus houses in Valmiki Nagar, and all of them fell in line and started segregating. We made a leaflet saying diapers, sanitary pads are hazardous waste. And after sending out the message, the USFL leaflet says that diaper and sanitary pads are dry trash. So this is, how can you have a soiled sanitary pad and a diaper filled with shit at dry trash? Then the whole accountability, after so much of awareness that we send, the whole accountability of, us working and, conducting the workshop, everything falls completely to zero. They are so confused that the whole segregation system itself falls apart. So aren't we supposed to send a proper message to all the citizens? Aren't the citizens, shouldn't you involve the citizens who are working SWM influencers, take their viewpoint? We have been working for 3 years on the ground. If you tell me to write a book, I can write it for you on behavioral changes and what we have done, how we have faced backlash from citizens, everything. And you were talking about all the, citizens need to do. I agree. I think 30% of citizens will start segregating and giving you the waste. But the rest of them, unless you have penalty, I don't think you thought so much about COVID protocol fines or a mask fine. But why is there so much of hurdle for a fine for solid waste management? I think that if you want citizens to start segregating, 30-35% will start doing it because they feel responsible towards environment. But the rest of them, unless there is a proper enforcement from your side, and you have penalty and fines, because this is behavioral change. Just like how you fine and say helmet wearing is necessary, but still we have people who are violating those rules. So those kind of enforcement has to come from your side, and I would request you to have some kind of a review meeting with the solid waste managed influencers to find out how to spread the awareness to get the people into what kind of a segregation is there, what the message has to go. I think we will be more than glad to help you with that.
Okay, madam, thanks for your great input you have given. That we know the rule very much stipulates regarding that sanitary napkin, like diapers and sanitary pads, it should be wrapped properly. No, what I'm just reading out the article, what is written in the rule of law, bylaw. Can you permit me so that I can write it so that everybody will be knowing that? The duties of the waste generator, that is the main aspect, that you have to segregate and store waste generated by them in the separate stream. That is one. Second thing is that wrap the securely used sanitary waste like diapers, sanitary pads, etc. in the pouches provided by the manufacturers or the brand owners of these products or in a suitable wrapping material and by the authorities, by the users, and shall place it in the bin meant for dry waste or non-biodegradable waste. What is the confusion in it? You can do it like that. We'll educate our system also to go in line with this. One thing. Another one you are telling around this, I am very much thankful that I am pre-COVID. We are able to say that all our micro composting centers are functioning very much effectively, and they are able to have, in fact, we have given a kind of manure to that organic farm in around the Tiruvallur belt. The agriculture department, they have taken massive scale from us, and that Udavargal Kulu, something, the society, they have taken right from our doorstep. Of course, the COVID has come a lot of pandemic period, the segregation has come down. Now we are scaling up, and it will be definitely in a right split track. And by that way, as you told, the enforcement is almost done. There will be a kind of press release will be there in a week time or so. And we'll advocate this segregation, a lot of awareness, and above all RWA stakeholders should forward to scale up this. Unless we do anything. In fact, some of us they are know that the BOV operator vehicle, they platform like a small piece of it is there. Some sheet is there, wherein that kind of mixed they are segregate, put it in a proper bins in the BOV. There are quite a lot of incidents we are advocating. Though holders are giving like that, to just to do before their home, so that they can see eye to eye what is happening on the poor fellow is doing on that. By at least seeing eye to eye, the resident will have a tendency to segregate the waste. That should happen. To say that in my house, if you come, I am putting 2 bins separately and giving the dry waste and wet waste, and I am just educating the nearby areas also. Quite a lot of people, around 30 to 40%, they are willing to do that. And if you go in enforcement, and also we can scale up it. For that, the awareness should come from the residents, from the RWAs. There are a lot of residential associations. They are quite very much involved. Still, a lot of gap is there. Yes. The forum has to take a call on that. Please.
So we will be. Actually, there are many RWAs represented here. We'd be happy to come and sort of take the lead and say, you tell us what is it that we are empowered to tell citizens. I'm sure there is no dearth of leadership in the city for citizens who want to take this forward. So I'm going to...
One more thing to the awareness, I would like to have after COVID, the Arbesar will be going to have a bigger way. They are going to have a residential association. They meet the people, the zonal manager. There is a IEC activity. They will promote, in fact, the slum dwellings and all, giving kind of stationary items who are all bringing the segregated waste. And they have a permanent training center like they are going to create it, wherein the school children can be taught how to do all these things. These are all on the way. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will, with all the help of the forum, the RWAs, we are confident to going through the system of segregation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining. I think you had mentioned to us that you have another meeting. We will be following up with you on these, sir. Definitely, we'll come back and ask you when is the press release and when are we empowered to go out and tell people that this is now the rule. So thank you very much for joining us. I know Pugar had raised his hand. I'm going to ask Pugar if he has a comment there, but I'm also going to later, as soon as Pugar is done with his comment, I'd like Matthew to enlighten us on what really happens to the plastic once it leaves our homes, because we all think that we can check the box and say, okay, we've recycled and that is the journey, and therefore it's okay to order more on Amazon because we are putting the cardboard boxes away in the dry trash. But Matthew has seen it firsthand, how much of it really gets recycled. Matthew, I'll just request Pugar to make his comment, and then please come in and tell us what is the life cycle, what is the journey of the plastic.
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi. Like earlier, as Mahesh, I think, has said, the garbage, to be very convenient, I will go with Tamil. Like, நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி இந்த கார்பேஜ் வந்து செக்ரிகேஷன்ல வந்து இஷ்யூ இருக்குன்றது வந்து சொல்றீங்க. இது எல்லாருமே நம்மளும் வந்து அதுதான் வந்து இந்த செக்ரிகேஷன்ல தான் வந்து நம்மளும் வந்து எல்லாருக்கும் அவேர்னஸ் கிரியேட் பண்றோம். பட் இன்னொரு பாயிண்ட் என்னன்னாக்கா, public, they are not just asking who are you to ask this, they are also telling us another answer, like நான் இதை பிரிச்சு கொடுத்தாலும் இது வந்து போயிட்டு அந்த கார்பேஜ் பின்ல மறுபடியும் ஒன்னாதான் சேருது. This is creating extra, I mean, like extra burden to the corporation or to the town panchayat or any solid waste management. So this is not the first time Chennai Corporation is doing like advising the public to have separate bins. I think almost 10 years before, Tamil Nadu government gave created some advertisement, awareness advertisement, and the Panchayat office itself gave door-to-door step. They came and they gave a green color and a red color garbage. They advised them to, biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste to be given separately, and also the vehicle that there's hand in hand or other people that bring the vehicle. This was also painted in 2 different colors. இது எல்லாமே beginningல, அப்போ நான் ஸ்கூல் படிக்கிற டைம் beginningல பார்க்கும்போது it was, starting was very good. But today, Chennai Corporation has separate bin for solid waste and non-biodegradable or biodegradable waste. They have a placard in that bin. They have separate bins everywhere. I will go with only with Valsarvakam zone 11 limit. I live around here. What happening is, from my home, I advise my relatives or my friends to have 2 bins. Everyone are giving in 2 different bins. They are giving solid waste separately, dry waste separately, and wet waste separately. Hazardous waste or like sanitary napkins also they are wrapping in separately in a paper and they are giving as a solid waste. But immediately that electrical vehicle has 6 bins. They collect every waste and they put all the waste in a single bin, which is kept commonly in an area. Then where is the problem? My question is, if I am right, but the waste who are collecting, they are doing this kind of thing, then why should always the public are being blamed?
This is one minute. This is a common area. Everybody used to say like that. Whenever I am segregating and giving the waste like that, the corporation, this worker who is doing primary collection, he puts mixed up and putting in that common bin. This is a wrong message. I firmly deny on it. And the battery operated vehicle, where the people are giving kind of waste, and wherever possible, if their segregation is happening so good, and the MCC are very much, there is MCC in the sense of micro composting centers, where we assigned a target to the each zone, and the people are tracking with the all kind of mechanism, see that the segregated waste is going safely to that concerned processing center. So I'm very sure on it. We scaled up around 1,000 tons around the wet waste. It has gone in a bigger way. Of course, the lockdown has come down to the quantity of processing. Now we are scaling up around 600 tons. If you come around in the whole city, we have 200 centers like FCC, where we are doing like that. In Madhavaram, it's a bigger scale. We are more than 50 tons. The window composting system. We are scaling up around 20 to 25 tons now. So these are all activities. I'm saying with firm that the segregated waste, just like that, it is being collected and later on it mixed and put it into that garbage bin in the street. I am strongly denying on that. We respect the citizens, whoever giving segregated waste. We are not advocating that. I am very strong on it. If you bring kind of notices, we'll take a strong action on the fellow who concerned. I am pulling up the managers of our zone and that all the supervisors involved on that. And we are giving a very much target to increase the quantity of segregation and processing system to go a long way. Say, I am telling you that there is people like you and many of them very much involved. The 30 to 40% they are giving. Of course, it has to scale up, and we are going to have enforcement because of lockdown. We kept things in a low profile. We'll make it a point that enforcement will be taking a bigger way, and that concessionaire Arbaiser is doing a lot of this thing kind of collection and segregation and this sending to the processing center in a perfect system. Everything is we are monitoring with key performance indicators. We are not just paying that that concessionaire just like that. You are dumping so much of garbage and we are paying this much of money. It's a project management consultant, is independent engineer who is valuing all the city and who is tracking whether the bin is cleared, whether household is collected, whether the processing center it is segregated waste is going daily, and kind of surveillance mechanism is there well built in the system. And we'll take forward all your suggestions and we'll go ahead with that your thing, and enforcement also will taking a vital role shortly.
Okay. Looks like Meenakshi's connection is lost, so I'm just stepping in. Thank you, Mahesan sir, for for giving us a promising statement. So, as requested, I'd like to have Mr. Matthew talk about the journey of trash. We now know how important it is to segregate waste and all. As Mr. Mahesan told us what happens to our waste. So, Mr. Matthew, can you please come in here and tell us what happens and how much really gets recycled after segregation?
Yeah. So just wanted to see how, and I understand all these perspectives. I think from GCC side, Mahesan sir and myself personally, we had a lot of interaction around this. What Sumana Jayanti mentions also, this is something which it's different perspectives from different side of a stakeholder system. So I just want to throw in a light on how complex actually recycling is. It's not as easy as it seems, where we're talking like the plastic goes out of the house and then it gets collected in one particular stream and it gets this thing. It's just the complexity of that, the kind of informal sector network that works on that, the types of plastic, and if you just go on online and just search, do a simple Google search on types of plastic, you will see like something called polystyrene, multi-layered plastics. You will see your PET bottles. You will see there's just so many number of types of plastics, and plastic is an invention where you can just keep molding it with other plastics, and you can keep coming up with new versions of plastic. And when you need to actually recycle this, the fundamental rule of recycling is that all these plastics have to be sorted and segregated into that many categories. Now at home level, we say 2 bin 1 bag kind of recycling, different kinds of sorting. All this is what we talk about in the room, in a house level, right? But at a plastic recovery facility level, we are talking about separating that particular plastic which is coming out, only the plastic. I'm leaving the cardboard, the paper items, everything away, the metal items, everything away, and all the different components of those items. I'm not only focusing on plastic alone, and that plastic alone to segregate and recycle is it's a whole different kind of understanding that is required, which is basically like there's industrial type plastic, there is blow molded plastic, there is injection molded plastic, and there's just so many variety of it, and you need to separate everything into like about 30-40 categories to then further grind them and then make them into new recycled granule to the thing. So it's a highly laborious process. There's so much manpower required, and the only reason why it is happening in India today, and it's happening in recycling happening in India, is fundamentally because of cheap manpower availability. Being very honest, because recycling as a large scale activity does not happen in developed countries. It happens in India because of cheap manpower availability, and that's fundamentally the reason. So it's not as easy as we think it is. I was just trying to find the graph where I could have because I prepared for something else, but then I could not find it. Just to give an idea what the types of plastic. But you can do a simple Google search, which just searching the types of plastic in itself, and just imagine that all that types have to be segregated and sorted separately. And in those types itself, there are so many types of product. Like for example, like I'll talk about your day-to-day products, right? Let's say your milk packets, it's LDP, right? Milk packets is a type of plastic called LDP. You cannot recycle LDP and PET together. There are two different types of plastic. There's no value in it, right? So you need to separate your milk and this thing, right? Now, when you separate the milk and the PET, your milk packet sometimes have a little bit of milk left in it, right? And what happens when you store it over a period of time at a shop level? Why do we take it out of the house, right? It's because it smells. And after a point, you go take it to a shop, it smells there too, right? And if flies get around it, right? And then you take it to a recycling site. It's not an easy, it's very complicated, that whole listing, right? It has to be separated at the shop level, and then further recycling of it has to happen. If you take a material like, say, like your let's say shampoo bottle, it's usually more often it's usually HDP blow, right? But the challenge today is with innovation in packaging and other things that's coming around it. The brands and consumers are creating more and more packaging which is complex and like lightweight, and also they save a lot of cost during logistics and things like that. Now, when that happens, the consistency is also not there. Earlier, the technology was like, say, shampoo bottles are all HDP blow, but today there are PP shampoo bottles. So what happens is when all that up together, it becomes even more complex from the recycler side to actually separate this and recycle this, right? So these are all complexities, the fundamental challenges after somebody does all this work, picking it up from a doorstep level. I'm talking about number of stakeholders, picking it up from a doorstep level, bringing it to a place, aggregating it, taking it to an MRF, RRC, wherever, and then from there again taking it to a recycler, and then he's doing it, and then if he's not getting value out of the whole thing because the quality of the material is low, then that entire effort and the cost put in on that process goes to waste, right? So,
Mr. Matthew, I'm having some urgent meeting in continuation of this. Can I take a leave? I think for debate, I am unable to hear more on that.
Sure.
Can I take a leave, dear friends? Thank you for all. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, so that is that. Just to.
Matthew is just joining. Give us a second.
So, yes, meanwhile, I'd like to, Ms. Sumana has raised her hand. Ms. Sumana, can you please tell, sorry, I think he's here.
I think, why don't we let Matthew finish? And anyway, my comment was more related to Mr. Mahesan's points. So perhaps for later. Matthew?
Sure,
Yeah.
sir.
Sorry, the line got cut. So yeah, so it is a complicating process. It is not a straight line, easy as it is made to be understood. A lot of recycling it's made to believe that's the way to solve this environmental issue. I am in the field of recycling. I do about 12,000 tons of plastic recycling per annum. Today we as an organization, we do that kind of volumes of plastic recycling, and I can vouch for it. It is it is not the easiest sector to segment or sector to be in, and I know for all the 12,000 tons of plastic that I'm recycling, how much of tons of plastic I cannot recycle, right? So I being in this industry, I realize it is not as easy as it is made to believe.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Yes, it really sounds easier said than done, and it looks really very complex to just even to listen what happens to every kind of plastic we collect. I just hope we at least think hereafter whenever we ask for an extra paper cover, the least we do. So with that, I would like to move on to Ms. Sumana. Can you please tell us what you wanted to tell?
Sure, thank you. So one was actually more in response to what Mr. Mahesan had said about the whole segregation part of things, that it is ongoing. At least in my locality, which is Adyar Zone 13, they have not been segregating, at least in my road. And even if, like I said earlier, segregate பண்ணி கொடுத்தாலும் அவங்க வந்து எண்ட்ல மிக்ஸ் பண்ணி தான் போடுறாங்க. பிளஸ் தெருமுனையில உங்களுக்கு 2 பெரிய பின் இருக்கும்போது மக்கள் எனிவே வந்து அங்க போய் குப்பை போட போறாங்க. ஸோ அந்த பேட்டரி ஆப்ரேட்டட் வெஹிக்கிளை மிஸ் பண்ணிட்டோம் இல்ல வந்து கொடுக்கலன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், what am I going to do? I'm just going to walk down the road and throw it in that bin. ஏன்னா அது வந்து எல்லாம் சேர்த்து தான் போடுறாங்க. அதுல வந்து டிஃபரன்ஷியேஷன் யாருமே பார்க்கறது இல்லை. ஏன்னா யாருக்குமே அதை பத்தி I don't know if they, maybe some of them அவங்களுக்கு அதை பத்தி தகவல் இல்லை, சில பேருக்கு வந்து அதுல வந்து ஆர்வமும் இல்லை. So this is where all that messaging that we've been talking about and the penalties that are there need to be implemented, and that enforcement needs to be very strong and consistent. For example, நம்ம இப்போ கோவிட் பத்தி பேசும்போது மாஸ்க் போடுங்கன்னு எல்லாரும் சொல்றாங்க இல்லையா? We had in the last 2-3 months, one of the things I've noticed that the government has done really well is that anytime that on TV, in the news, when they're showing any event of the government, right, where vaccination camp, etc., all the officials, the minister, everybody is wearing a mask properly. It's a reinforcement of that messaging which goes to the public. அதே மாதிரி நம்ம மெசேஜ் அந்த கன்சிஸ்டண்டா இருக்கணும் and சொல்லிட்டே இருக்கணும், and we have to follow through on all of it. So a large part of that comes from the GCC. The other thing I wanted to add on to what Matthew was saying, that recycling, he knows well how hard it is and what are the various issues there. But therefore, this is not the solution. He has just given a very broad, he hasn't gone into all the details of how complex it is for people like him to figure this out. But this is not therefore the solution. It's, totally globally, 7-9% of plastics get recycled, and you're constantly producing more and more plastics. And it doesn't look like we're going to slow down anytime. So in the பிரச்சனை வந்து ரீசைக்ளிங்கால நம்ம வந்து இதை சால்வ் பண்ண போறது இல்லை. Recycling is a convenient thing that manufacturers will use to say, recycle பண்ணிடலாம், பிரச்சனை இல்லை, பண்ணிடலாம், நீங்க segregate பண்ணி கொடுத்தீங்கன்னா recycle பண்ணிடலாம். But no, it's not being recycled, and it's not the solution. The solution is what I was saying earlier, is to reduce the waste, to switch to better packaging, to think about how we are consuming goods, how we are throwing. இப்போ எல்லாமே வந்து யூஸ் அண்ட் த்ரோ மோட்ல போறோம். இன்னைக்கு வாங்குறோமா, நாளைக்கு தூக்கி போட்டோமா. So how do we change those habits? How do we rethink those things? That is where one of the major focus needs to be. And we cannot keep talking as if recycling is going to solve our problem.
Yes, thank you, Sumana. Thanks a lot for talking about the biomedical waste disposal that happens at our individual level, and also we really look forward to the notification about penalty from the Greater Chennai Corporation. So that brings us to the end of the discussion. I would like to open the floor for questions. So participants, you may type out your questions on the chat box and we can direct it to the panelists. Yes, this question is to Mr. Matthew. It's from Mamta Jain. It's sad that you had to shut it down. While I thought I will reach out to you someday regarding how you had set up Paperman to get mentored. I've just started my journey with clothing waste. Why is there no incentive at all from governments? Greater Chennai Corporation should have some schemes as you were unburdening them. No. Yes. Can Matthew take this question?
Yeah. Thanks, Mamta. Yeah, it was quite sad for ourselves. You can imagine if you feel listening how heartbroken we would have been when it's one of our most passionate projects that we ever build upon. But having said that, it's more like a pivot. Like so today, so this doorstep recycling solution. It's one phrase of what we were doing. We're engaged in behavioral change activities through our foundation. We have recycling, where we aggregate material. We run material recovery facilities where we aggregate material and then we move things forward. So this is one aspect of the work where we were dedicated to getting to the doorstep of the user and creating that experience for the user to directly collect and recycle. So yeah, so we see it. Yeah, it was a brave attempt. Like I said, it was a brave experiment. It was more driven by ambition than actual logic. So yeah, so we are really happy that we did experiment on that. So having said that, so yes, Paperman still recycles. We do about 12,000 tons of plastic every month. We recycle that kind of volumes, and we are very actively in the space of creating awareness and more. But what can be done for GCC to incentivize subsidy for recyclers? I think what the city lacks is a vision, right? I don't think it's more about subsidy or it's about anything. It's about a vision, and the city needs a vision. And if you look at all the cities across the globe which have done well, is that they have worked together to create a vision for where they want to be in 2035, and how realistic can you build that vision? It's not about like saying that, yeah, I'm going to do it 100%. It's not going to happen. It's behavioral change happens very, very, very slowly. It happens with consistency, and it's over a period of time. So the city needs a vision that binds it together, and that's the first step, I feel. And under that vision, you get yes, all types of stakeholders with different needs and requirements, right? All types of stakeholders together within that vision, so that everybody gets this binds into that system, and then you have an effective waste management around it. So yeah, that's what I would start at. I would start with a strong vision. That's what I would say. Not about subsidy, because without having plan, you subsidize the wrong thing. You end up actually disincentivizing or something like that. For example, there was subsidy where earlier subsidy was where waste was collected and then it's dumped in the landfill, right? And it was a wrong incentive, because that actually encouraged a lot of the contractors where you're picking up debris, this, that, everything, mix in, load my truck full of material, dump it over there, I get paid for it. So the incentive was very wrong, right? So I would say don't go about subsidizing initially. Work with the vision. What is that we want to try? What is that we are trying to achieve? Break down that vision into milestones and see it over 15, 20 years, and that's when you really can achieve a city of greatest thing. And you have to be patient around it. So I always say this, when I got into waste management recycling, I was 21 and I thought I could solve this issue in like 2 years. And now I'm 12 years into the space, and I realize every year how far away I am from actually solving this issue. So I realize every year that it's much, much bigger than what we think the issue is. It's a global issue. It's driven by consumerism. Consumerism is everywhere. right? And it's just it's a huge thing, and we need to take small steps. I'm not saying that I don't want to be disheartening or don't want to say that nothing's not. It's definitely possible today. There's a whole new. So I want to leave it at a positive note that there is a very good movement now. There's a lot of awareness that's being coming in. There's a lot of proactive actions from a lot of companies and brands who are trying to be pro environment and pro sustainable products, and that's also inspiring other companies in the consumer market and more. So there is a lot of change that's happening. And having said, I also feel, yes, recycling has its downs and everything, but recycling is also a economy as such. There's a lot of jobs. There are a lot of jobs that's being provided in this economy. There is a and it is also in a way, like, let me say, I from a life cycle assessment point and everything, it might not be specific, but in a way, if the material today, whatever is not collected for recycling, and I'm just saying of today's nature, right? Your Chennai's waste, what we are saying, that 5,000 tons that gets dumped in the landfills will become 7,500 tons, which means the city has to spend even more this thing. So just from a pure this thing, maybe long term it is not, but in a short term basis, it does help the city by ensuring that there is less waste that is ending up in the landfills or water waste. It's not a foolproof thing, but yes, definitely. So yeah, just wanted to.
Okay, so there is another question on segregating plastics from Satyamurthy. Is there any unique international color code that can be printed on different types of plastics so that it is easy for a common man to separate it, and also it will be easy to recycle?
There is a new international code which is used everywhere. There's a number in your plastic. If you say resin number 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 7, it is there, right? You can actually separate based on those 7 resin codes. That's a bit. See, but fundamentally, like, how easy is that to communicate for somebody like organization like GCC or a non-profit which is working to improve segregation? How easy is it to communicate to people to separate? We're finding a struggle to communicate to say divide wet waste and dry waste and reject waste. Now, how do you go about communicating, say that, hey, can you this thing about plastic? And I'm sure Jayanti and Sumanya will agree over here. It's a huge challenge. You can't tell them to segregate 7 ways at the house, and people just, I think the strongest of passionate and environmentalists will give up on this, right? We have to do on a day-to-day basis. So it is a challenge. So I would say, if you can separate this dry waste, and we have to see the practicality of this as well, right? So dry waste, reject waste, food waste. If you are able to do that at a home level consistently, we still have a chance at the solution, right? If you make it more difficult for people to segregate it, it's already a difficult task, and if you make it more difficult for people, they're not going to do it. So I think that can be done at the second level, but at the home level, I feel so far, whatever I've learned in this space, I feel the 2 bin 1 bag is one of the best methods. Easy to understand, easy to adopt for a large number of people. And I really go by that at my home as well.
Okay, we understand it.
Bhavani, if I could just add to that. So yes, one, I agree that just going back briefly to the recycling, that we do need to keep that going, but we need to work at different fronts of what I was trying to say, that you need a long-term goal where we reduce our waste. And in the short term, we do need to keep doing this recycling, because that's what we have right now is one of the ways to deal with all the garbage that we create. But in terms of the labeling, in terms of having a number printed, like what Matthew said, most plastics do come with it. If you look at your packaging, you will find it. It's just you have to find it. It's really hard to find in many places. So we did CAG did a study this year on labeling in 5 cities across the state, to see, to understand if consumers even know about this. And we did find that people really had never heard of this, had not seen this symbol, didn't know what it was about. And we ourselves, when we collected the data across products, we found it's really hard to locate that information and to make sense of it. There are rules, as usual, most manufacturers don't follow those rules, all of that is there. And therefore, at a practical level, like Matthew says, you need that basic separation first. Get your compostable waste, your biodegradable waste, your dry waste, and then your hazardous sanitary waste. At least that basic separation and make sure that the dry waste is handed over clean so that, the person processing it is able to process it. But the labeling is useful if hey, there are obviously very enlightened people here who already know and do a lot of segregation and, take this very seriously. So for those Kuppe warriors, maybe it's useful to have that labeling information, and that's the next step that we need to evolve to look at labeling. And there is no other, some countries have information on eco-friendliness of the product, and they add other bits of information. In India, we don't have that level of detailing. It's fairly basic. It sticks to those 7 numbers that he mentioned. And that's where we are at labeling right now. And even that, a lot of manufacturers don't follow.
Okay. So the least we can do for now is segregate into the 3 types of waste. That's all we can do for now. So the next question from Priya Kandan.
Bhavani, if I may add to this, I think what Sumana has said, with among those two, I think we have to have a very strong policy decision. All the burden should not fall on consumers. It has to be put on the industries and manufacturer. So let us cut down this 1 to 7 into maybe just 1 to 4 or 1 to 3, and put the burden on the manufacturers. Why should it always be on the consumers? And also, yes, the plastic ban, what happened to it? So we have to have a strong policy decision along with this.
I think this is where the concept of extended producer responsibility comes in. And can Mr. Matthew highlight a bit about it? Will you be able to?
Yeah, sure. Extended producer responsibility is actually is a game changer in the plastic waste management space. I can say that out. It's primarily like what Jayanti mentioned. It said, hey, stop telling the recycler to recycle and take responsibility of the material you're bringing into the market. That's what extended producer responsibility fundamentally is. And there has been quite a bit of activity. It's still getting better in the country. It's still very nascent in its evolution. The policies and everything are still developing. There's a lot of doubt on how it is being done and things like that. But there has been quite a bit of active work that's happening. In fact, a lot of municipalities and even Greater Chennai corporations benefited through the EPR programs, where a lot of these legacy waste. When we talk about waste, sometimes we have to see that. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to handle 5,000 tons of material in a day, right? It's just a lot of volume. It's 5,000 tons of material that's coming in, and for a GCC to firefight that and to make sure something is done of it, it's a huge challenge. And they still have, really, it's a huge management nightmare in itself. So GCC has been able to, through extended producer responsibility programs, been able to channelize a lot of the plastic that's been collected to cement companies, where it is getting instead of sending it to landfill. So it has, in a way, diverted, but these programs have to be more, directed, where it can reach to the ground levels and more like that. But as of today, it is at a very peripheral level. A few programs, a few companies here and there doing it, but I'm sure that it's going to get better over the next couple of years.
Okay.
Bhavani, what could I add to that, in the sense that one of the issues with all of this, when you're talking about cement, using it for that co-processing, and then you have a lot of talk about it. I think there was also a question about waste to oil. So all of these waste to energy, energy recovery technologies, every couple of years they come up with a new terminology for the same thing. Basically, they're burning it and saying they're going to create fuel, burning it in some format or the other. So these incineration models are hugely problematic. There's a lot of issues with the toxins they release. So that this is, I don't want to sound like the doomsday person here either, but the problem is that it is very complex and there are no easy solutions. So the GCC has already set up one incinerator, which is functional, and they're planning to set up more. And the other issue other than the toxins, which is going to release into the atmosphere and which we're going to breathe in, and the other issue with all of this is that fundamentally you need to keep feeding these plants. They have a life of like 20, 30 years, and you need to keep feeding them food, which is the plastic, which is the garbage that you're producing. So you're doing this loop where you're actually encouraging generation of more garbage and more plastic, right? So again, this is not, these are what a lot of groups across the world are calling false solutions. These are not what's going to solve your problem. So we need to really think about what we want for this city. How do we want this city to be 20 years from now? What do we want to leave for the next generation? Do we want them to be able to live in a city which you can breathe air, you can drink clean water, and eat food which is grown on soil which is not contaminated with a lot of weird things? So how are we going to do this? And we're not going to be able to do this by burning the garbage and breathing in all the toxic fumes which come out of that. So these are, I mean, there is no easy solution for this, unfortunately. We just need to keep working towards it. And we need to be really careful about some of these so-called solutions which sound very simple and lovely, but in reality are going to be much worse for us in the future.
Okay, so thank you, Sumana. Since we are running out of time, I'd like to direct this one last question to Pugalvendan. So there is one question that one of our readers has asked: what can, as a resident, what can we do to ensure that the masks that we use are disposed of safely? Pugal, can you come here and can you come here and give share your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Bhavani. See, like I already said, number one, already red color bin or green color bin அப்படின்ற ஒரு மெத்தட் நம்ம கவர்மெண்ட் அது அந்த அவேர்னஸ் கொடுத்தாங்க, and we were following that. That was very long back. And even today, all the corporation and all the panchayat office, they are coming up with this kind of things. They are asking the residents to give the dry waste and the wet waste in a separate bins. Adding this mask, gloves, or anything related to. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah, so adding this corona situation, so hardly from February 2020 this thing started. Even hospital has to follow this, which they are not following. And also the resident, they have to come up with, like what I have done. I have a separate bin in my home where because multiple times we are going out and we are coming, I have a separate bin where I drop only my mask, or if I'm wearing a gloves or anything which is related to, like there is an இதனால வைரஸ் பரவும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு பயம். இந்த வைரஸ் தடுக்கிறதுக்காக நம்ம என்னெல்லாம் தற்காப்பு கருவிகள் நம்ம யூஸ் பண்றோமோ, மாஸ்கோ, கிளவுஸோ, இது எல்லாமே நான் அந்த பின்ல போடுறதுக்காக நான் வச்சிருக்கேன். அண்ட் அது நான் தனியா அவங்க கிட்ட ஹேண்ட் ஓவர் பண்றதுனால, லைக் அவங்க சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் அவங்களோட யூனிட்டுக்கு கொண்டு போகும்போது, லைக் இது தனியா இருக்கும்போது இட் வில் பி ஈஸி ஃபார் தெம் டு அது தனியா வச்சுட்டு அதை ட்ரீட் பண்றதுக்கு. ஏன்னா இது எல்லாமே வித் த ஹெல்ப் ஆஃப் இன்சினரேட்டர் யூனிட்ஸ் ஒன்லி they are going to dispose this thing. Like GCC, they have set up an incinerator in few places, and they are also going to do, as someone already said. This could be like இது எல்லா இடத்துல வர்றது, இன்சினரேட்டர் வர்றது we are not encouraging, but இந்த மாதிரி மெடிக்கல் வேஸ்ட் we cannot அது சிம்பிளா கம்போஸ்டா மாத்துறதோ இல்லை வேற எந்த ப்ராசஸும் we cannot do that. அது இன்சினரேட்டர் யூனிட்ல தான் அது நம்ம டிஸ்போஸ் பண்ணி ஆகணும். ஸோ எவ்ரி இண்டிவிஜுவல், எவ்ரி ரெசிடென்ஸ், if they they collect, they segregate the medical waste separately. Even from now, what I would suggest is, if they are consuming any medicines that that end waste products, the மாத்திரையோட அட்டையா இருக்கும், சிரப்போட பாட்டில்ஸா இருக்கும், or anything, அதையுமே we need to segregate separately, and we hand it over to the sanitary workers நம்ம கிட்ட கலெக்ட் பண்ண வராங்க. So this will help to because as early we spoke, இந்த சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் யூனிட்ல போயிட்டு நம்ம பார்க்க வேண்டியது இருக்கு. அவங்க அதை எப்படி பிரிக்கிறாங்க அவங்க கையாலன்றது பார்க்க வேண்டியது இருக்கு. In all town panchayat, all corporation office, they have a solid waste management unit where more than 60 to 70 people sit. They they separate all this waste by themselves with their bare hands. Still India is lagging in this kind of things. அவங்க எல்லாம் வந்து இன்னும் ஃபுல்லா வந்து அதுக்குன்னு ஒரு ப்ரொடெக்ஷன் கிட்ட போட்டுலாம் ஒர்க் பண்ற மாதிரியான சிஸ்டம்ஸ் இங்க இல்லை. அவங்க எல்லாம் அவங்க கையால தான் பிரிக்க வேண்டியது இருக்கு. ஸோ அப்படி இருக்கிற பட்சத்துல இந்த கொரோனா காலகட்டத்துல it is our responsible to segregate at least this medical waste separately, and we need to hand it over to them. And also, I was not arguing to the DCC person. I was just suggesting him. When public we are coming up with such kind of awareness, and we are number one separate பண்ணி கொடுக்கும்போது it is their responsible also. அவங்களுமே வந்து அதை வந்து இங்க இருந்து நம்ம கிட்ட இருந்து வாங்கிட்டு போயிட்டு அகைன் ஒரே இடத்துல வந்து அவங்க டம்ப் பண்ற போது அது அவங்களுக்கு தான் வந்து வேலை அதிகமா ஆகுது. இட் இஸ் a burden to them. Again they have to in their solid waste management unit they have to sit and they have to separate it. The more time is being spent on that. So when residents are coming up with such kind of things, then it is their responsible also, like corporation or town panchayat responsible also to take it to the end process, till that end process, because this will cut short that work process. And also it will protect, அவங்களுமே வந்து இதனால வந்து பாதிக்கப்படாம வந்து தப்புறதுக்கான வாய்ப்புகள் வந்து உருவாகும்னாக்கா அது இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணாதா.
Okay. Thank you, Pugal. We are almost we are at the end of the discussion. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks a lot for participating. Thank you to the speakers for taking part in this panel discussion. And we will email the event report, and this discussion will be uploaded on YouTube. We will share it via email once it gets published. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bhavani. Thank you.
Thank you.